My name is Werner Berger. I live part-time in Pennsylvania. My company is Transformational Leadership Experiences, and I take people on hikes through which they actually discover who they really are, and as a result, their leadership capabilities emerge at a much higher level.
All right, Werner.
Well, the road course was just total fun. Total excitement, total fun, total challenge, physical challenge, not as much emotional challenge because I just thrive under those conditions. I was a little bit ticked with myself that I couldn't grab the trapeze bar at first. And the other part that was really nice is seeing people overcome their fears. You know, some people saying, I will not do this, and then doing it and glowing at the end of it.
You're like a warrior. If you signed up for this workshop to be here for these 4 days, you're like a warrior. You're up to big things in life.
Well, first of all, Scott is an incredible human being and set the whole process up beautifully. Obviously, he'd done it many times before. The whole process was a challenge because you never knew what was going to be happening, very much the way it is on Mount Everest, because you don't know when the storms are going to move in. You do not know when you're going to encounter a crevasse. You do not know when one of your team members is going to become sick, or you do not know that one of the ladders that you're crossing isn't going to buckle and break or lose its edge. So from that respect, it was very, very real.
Live from Studio 1A in Rockefeller Plaza.
And we're going to meet a 69-year-old man who just summited Mount Everest. We're going to find out why there ain't no mountain high enough for this record holder.
Yeah, in 1982, I trekked with my son to Everest Base Camp. And I just completely fell in love with the mountains. When I came back weeks and months later, every time I thought of the experience and every time somebody asked me about it or I looked at some photographs, I had this real rush of emotion and happiness. And I knew at that point that I wanted to go higher and I wanted to go more remote, never realizing that I was on track ultimately to do the 7 summits. 7 summits being the highest mountain on each of the 7 continents, and that includes, of course, Mount Everest. And then in 2002, I climbed McKinley for the 2nd time, but again failed to make it because of weather. However, met somebody that climbed Aconcagua in South America with me. I had the idea of being on top of Mount Kilimanjaro on the morning of my 65th birthday, because I was born in Africa and of course knew about this beautiful mountain in Central Africa. And then after accomplishing that on the morning of my 65th birthday, I thought to myself, wow, you know, I've got a couple of the summits, why don't I just keep going? And 5 years later, on my after my third attempt of McKinley and summiting Everest, I achieved the 7 summits. However, there's a mountain in Australia that's only 7,200 feet. That's the highest point on this huge continent. The climbers don't recognize that as a climb. So in 2013, I climbed Karsten's Pyramid in Papua New Guinea, which gave me what is called the Climbers 7. And at that point, I became the oldest person in the world to complete the 7 summits. Yeah, actually at base camp, I was in touch with Heshi, my wife-to-be, and she said that she had actually FedExed a kite to me, which was carried by a Sherpa to base camp at Everest. And so I had 2 kites, as it turned out to be, in my backpack. And on the summit of Everest, One of them actually got lost. The wind was a bit too strong, and then the second one flew high above the earth on Mount Everest. So I believe I'm the only person to have ever flown a kite on Mount Everest. After being a corporate consultant for more than 25 years, actually going into 30 years, suddenly something hit me like a ton of bricks. And what hit me is that most people walk away from the coaching or the training or the workshops that they're in saying, oh my gosh, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. My sales will improve, or my leadership capabilities would improve, or my managerial skills have improved. And yet, months later, when I meet up with these people, they hardly remember the name of the workshop, which simply means that they haven't translated what they said was vital to their success into their everyday lives. So I kept asking myself, what's going on here? Built-in follow-up and reinforcements, and still the process did not make a change. On the mountains of the world, I really found out who I am as an individual. I also learned more about team and about people than I actually learned during my MBA days, during my growing a small business from 17 employees to 92 employees over a 7-year period, or even during my corporate consulting career. So I realized that it takes much more than training, which is cognitive, to embed these skills. When we look at the world and the relationships that exist within the world, we have to agree that what we see is chaos. And we have to ask, where are the leaders? Because good leaders would vie for a world that works, cooperation, alignment, and caring for our planets, or our planet. That is not what we see. And the question, of course, could be why? The answer is fairly simple. We have leaders, or we have people in leadership positions that don't act the way they need to act because there's things missing. So the question could be, and where do we start? We start by stretching ourselves. We start by putting ourselves into situations that are uncomfortable, where the outcome is not necessarily predictable. Because at some point in time, we have to discover, who is this person? What are the strengths that this person brings to the table? Who are they other than just what they speak? The issue is, who are they being? And I also realized that the changes in me can be recreated in others by taking them on what I'm calling transformational leadership experiences. And we take people to Everest Base Camp. It's about a 10-day hike into base camp. Take them to the top of Kilimanjaro. That can be anywhere from a 7-day to a 9-day hike, or across an Inca trail to Machu Picchu, which is usually a slightly shorter hike. And together with some training, they come away, bar none, talking about having had a life-changing experience. What really has changed for them? 2 answers keep coming back. One of them is, I was blown away by my strengths, by what I can do and I didn't think I could do. And then I kept looking at, what does this mean? And it really means that they end up recognizing their personal powers or their personal strengths. And the more they recognize their personal strengths, the more authentic and assertive they can be in every aspect of their lives. If I don't know who I am, I'm either going to be pushy, I'm going to be laissez-faire, or I'm just going to, back away from things when I should be confronting and dealing with them. And the missing ingredient for so many leaders is true and authentic empathy. And when I combine empathy with assertiveness, that to me is the foundation for leadership. And now, when you give me some training like communication skills or people skills, and I can utilize them in combination with my empathy and my assertiveness, now I have true leadership capabilities, because now I can be congruent.